afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast. State of the Balance with me, your host, Imperial Dane. So what has happened since last? Well, a bit and not so much at the same time. There's always been some balance changes, but in most cases they shifted some things, but in other cases not really a lot. So let's start out in the usual order. Allies into Axis, starting with the newer faction into the older factions in order. So let's start here with the British, a maligned faction, supposedly, after, again, they basically just nerfed the infantry sections, but buffed a lot of other things, effectively. So, what's kind of gone wrong there? Well, effectively, I think what's happened is a lot of British players just basically got lazy. They could rely on just bulletproof infantry sections, and they've been able to do so for years, which really hasn't helped British players actually get good at the game. Like, when you can just coast along on powerful infantry sections, obviously the first things happen, you suddenly can't rely on that, and you suddenly don't perform nearly as well. And I think that's kind of like why they even like backtrack to slightly boost infantry sections again, despite I really don't think they should have done that. Like, it effectively just re-encourages blobbing, to be honest, which again is the one thing they should not be doing. They're just slightly different blobs, but they're still blobs. So overall, no, I think it's going to have to give some more time. I think British players just going to have to get the grasp of the fact they're actually going to have to use the machine guns. And obviously, no, it sucks because the Wehrmacht has the same issue. The machine guns are kind of what they're meant to use. The machine guns suck because they're too slow. Like, if they were to buff both the MG42 and the Vickers, I think both factions overall early game perform a lot better. Like, they just need to be slightly faster, Relic. Just don't have them take a year and a half to set up and all that. Just make them a bit damn faster. For defensive factions, they need to be able to rely on the damn machine guns, and currently they can't. So, yeah, like, until they buff, the mobility of both the Vickers and the MG42, I think there's going to be recurring issues there that people complain about the infantry, when in reality they should be complaining about the damn machine guns, which is really what they should be focusing on. Like, sometimes, again, you sort of see people, like, focus on the wrong thing, and in the case of the Wehrmacht and the British, I feel like they need to focus on the damn machine guns. Damn it. So, yeah, buff those. Short version. Beyond that, I'm not really sure there's much else to say about the British until, again, they just buff and build the machine gun, and similarly do the same with the Wehrmacht MG42. I think that's helped both factions out notably. But moving on. Americans, I mean, again, like, they buffed the rifle and then they didn't nerf them, they slightly changed some other things. I mean, the Americans are all powerful, they've sort of got this hard swing element to them. Plus, they got sort of the Pershing more accessible, and obviously still powerful, so that's obviously a few problems. Overall, the Americans remain potent. Now, the M20 nerf did help a bit there. Like, you can't just snowball out so fast for the M20 and the 50 caliber. That has slightly sort of slowed them down, giving German players a bit more chance to deal with that. But overall, a lot of the Americans largely remain the same. Like, it's a lot of infantry. It's like recon support, it's heavy cavalry, it's Pershings, because the Pershing is really good, and it's very easy for the Americans to stall into it, because again, like, they get a lot of very good stall tools, including the M1 anti-tank guns, 50 calibers, and what have you. So in that sense, like, overall the changes haven't really changed much, of course make the Americans more able to wipe stuff with the rifle, which I really feel was like, a mistake. Like, they didn't need more wipe capabilities when it's, they're already a heavily snowballing faction, which allows them to snowball even harder. Like, I feel like they approach things a bit awkward, in particular when they then proceed to, in air quotes, nerf the Jackson tank destroyer by making it slightly more expensive, which really didn't make an actual damn difference. So, I feel like they, I don't know, I mean, not something needs to be toned down a bit, but honestly, at this point, it's hard to say. And honestly, I think it maybe just be better to just, buff the Wehrmacht, to be honest. I don't know, maybe slightly tone down the Pershing in some way, or some other bit, like lower the rate of fire of the M1 anti-tank gun just a tad. That I think could also have some nice beneficial effects on balance. Moving on, finally to the Surge. The Surge are quite potent. There's a lot of IS-2s, stalling into that, partly due to, again, just, consequence with 7-man squads being really potent late game. Certainly hearing a lot of complaints about that. Support weapons, of course, remain solid. In particular, I feel like the SIS-3 is overperforming. I mean, it's a 6-man anti-tank gun with roughly the same abilities as the PaK-40, except it also doubles as artillery, which I feel like basically just gives it too much potency. It also makes it too good in the late game, really. Like, in particular, Veteran 3, it's an absolute beast, and it's also very difficult for the Wehrmacht to kill, not for anyone really to kill. So I feel like that one's overperforming, and I think it's making it much, much easier for Surge players as of late, alongside 7-man conscript, to just easily and safely stall into the IS-2. And I definitely feel like what needs to happen is the SIS-3 gun, like, loses something. Either it lets, like, slower penetration rate of fire, or it loses some crew members or something. But I feel like something has to give with the SIS-3. I feel like it gives the Soviets too much in a too neat of a package at the moment. Like, it definitely feels like that one is overperforming by far. And I think if that one to be nerfed, I think a lot of the other Soviet stuff would be more reasonable. But with the SIS gun as it is currently, it's, yeah, like, I think it just pushes the Surge a bit above the edge here. So that's sort of my opinion there. Moving on to the Axis, we got the Oberkommando West, which with their slight nerfs. I mean, overall, obviously there's a lot more Fallschirmjägers, even after they got nerfed. There's more ground offensive. Panzerfleet waking up. Then people realizing Panzerschrecks, Panzerfleet are kind of good. Tiger tanks seeing a lot more usage since it's basically out faster than the King Tiger, yet it roughly performs in the same way, highlighting perhaps some issues with the King Tiger still, despite having buffed that one. And it's lastly very popular. Panthers very rarely see usage, but they do see usage here and there. They're still thinking that like the Panther could do with some sort of buff, maybe make it more expensive for the Oberkommando to compensate, but you know, make it better. Relic. Obersoldaten are seeing slight increase in usage, but I don't know, I feel like the Obersoldaten may still be lacking in overall firepower. Like even if they made it faster accessible, like it may just lack punch. Like they may need to actually give it a DPS increase or some slightly better veterancy bonuses. Like after they kept nerfing the Obersoldaten, I feel like they may need to buff them a bit more to sort of make them more viable, because we still see Volksgrenadiers primarily because they're still just better in some ways. So I think the Obersoldaten just slightly might be the better idea for the Oberkommando West, buffing the King Tiger and buffing the Panther just a bit, though increasing its cost to compensate. That really decreased the cost of the King Tiger, since at the moment I feel like the King Tiger could also arguably just overcosted. Like if they made it more accessible that way, that might also make the King Tiger slightly more viable, though it may cause it to be sort of overused. So it's a bit of a hard thing to, you know, sort of balance. Probably that's kind of the issue with the Oberkommando. It has a lot of these weird design elements that tend to lead to sort of hard swing areas, and it just sort of lacks tactical flexibility overall, and that, you know, sort of gets hard out of the stuff like the King Tiger. So it's a bit difficult there to, like, you know, put down how do they sort of properly make the King Tiger good, but not too good. Go figure. Either way, moving on to the Wehrmacht. The Wehrmacht, you know, could do with an buff to an MD42. I feel like, again, it is just too slow. I mean, the idea of the Wehrmacht is they're supposed to use it as a core of the forces, but the problem is it's too damn slow. I can pretty much only use defense because that way it can at least somewhat dictate the flow of the battle, but in defensive fighting it completely falls apart. Again, it is too damn slow for it's supposed to, and again, they're going to be supposed to be, you know, that way weaker, but again, you're supposed to then be carried them by the MD42, but again, it's too damn slow. So, damn it, Relic, buff the MD42, make it more mobile, you sods. Otherwise, again, I mean, we're just going to see the same thing happen over again. Like, people keep screaming buffs for the Grenadiers, when in reality what they should be screaming is buffs for the MD42 to be damn faster. They're not supposed to be doing everything with the damn Grenadiers. That kind of makes the Panther Grenadiers superfluous. And of course, the Wehrmacht still need to buff for tier 4, and I still recommend more elite infantry there in tier 4 as well. Or at least some sort of infrared assault rifle upgrade for the Panther Grenadiers, and maybe the Stormtroopers then get access to Thompsons as well, you know, something there. But overall, the MD42 needs to be better. Like, it needs to either have a significant boost to DPS, or it needs to be able to move fast. Like, something needs to give there with the MD42. I feel like that's really like where a lot of the Wehrmacht's core issues come from. Also, proper buff to the 250 half-tech. I know Armstrong did some great stuff with it, but like, you're not really seeing that replicated. So I still feel like the 250 half-tech basically got a non-buff, and they really like provide a proper buff to the 250 half-tech so it becomes better. Like, give it some sort of ability and aura on extra upgrades so it can do something besides being upgraded with flamethrowers, but I definitely feel like it needs something more. I think they do that thing that, you know, help the Wehrmacht balance out there as well and feel a bit more, you know, better rather than just being the faction that has to rely on playing hard aggressive. Otherwise, you get snowballed out of the game, which is obviously not particularly exciting. Again, like for the Wehrmacht, currently the issue is it cannot play as a late game faction, despite that's what it's supposedly designed for. A lot of the actual design and balancing points it towards being early game aggressive faction, but again, it lacks the elements to make that work as well. So, but it's still a better shot at the moment. So yeah, they still need more work there done with the Wehrmacht. And then there's also been some tactical issues. Of course, there's been a lot more emphasis on heavy armor call-ins. Again, like, you know, a lot more people stalling into that and just pushing straight for IS-2s and Tiger tanks and Pershings, primarily IS-2s. And of course, the big question is, how's that? I mean, obviously, again, part of it, again, it's just the Allies can snowball hard into it. And again, the Germans can't really punish it very well with their own army. They get like a tank up first. The Allies can usually like stall it up with a pair of anti-tank guns to stop it up there. So part of the issues, I feel like it's just medium armor to an extent. It's sort of slightly buried in some cases, in particular like the Wehrmacht's medium armor, beneath like a pile of anti-tank guns and other easy to get Allied anti-tank weapons. But also in some cases, just the sheer impact and how hard it can be to deal with all these anti-tank weapons from non-heavy armor. Like, again, like, there's a reason also you go for IS-2s and Tiger tanks and whatnot, because they can more consistently deal with anti-tank guns. So, in this regard, I feel like anti-tank guns are part of the issue. I feel like anti-tank guns are somewhat overperforming, which basically sort of leaves less room for, like, medium armor. thusly, you know, increasing more room for the heavy armor, just meaning most people are just going to skip straight forward. Like, it's easier to go for double anti-tank and stall into heavy tank because, well, your opponent gets out something to punish it. Well, you just stop them with a double anti-tank guns. Bob's your uncle. Threat seized. Like, I feel like anti-tank guns here create sort of a repetitive play pattern that is very much, no matter how you're going to look at it, result in heavy armor just stalling into, because how the hell do you stall punish it if they can just get 2 anti-tank guns and that's it? Like, I feel like that's kind of the play pattern problem that's arising. It's just too easy to stall into it. In some cases, also because some early factions can stall it, and the other factions then can't sort of, you know, deal with it easily because they can just snowball out and control into a fast IS-2, as we see here. Like, just fast IS-2 at 18 minutes because the German player simply couldn't pack it up. I think also because they were focused on the center here, not enough on the resources. Of course, that's another issue, obviously, skill. But I feel like in that sense, like, anti-tank guns need to be toned down in some manner. And obviously, again, toning down might make them more vulnerable to heavy tanks, but at the same time, that might, you know, that way ensure that there's still relevance for the heavy tanks, might also, that way, maybe give Wehrmacht tier 4 maybe a bit more relevance. If, like, for example, Panthers immediately countered again by double anti-tank guns. That could also be a way of doing it without necessarily buffing Wehrmacht tier 4, just making sure spamming anti-tank guns isn't like the super easy counter to all armored threats, which at times it does feel like, in particular with the SIS-3 field gun, but also just Pack 40s, like Kernenerf as well. Less those because the Allies have better ways of cleaning than the Germans have, vice versa. But that could be a way to look into just nerfing anti-tank guns a bit because they do feel a bit too ubiquitous. And there's a reason, like in the actual war, you know, they kind of started phasing them out because they're slow and clumsy. So, I know. Another way might also just be to make them slower, react slower, turn slower. I mean, there's a lot of ways, but I feel like anti-tank guns will maybe could stand to be toned down to again make medium armor a bit more reflexive, and that way maybe make it a bit harder there to stall for heavy tanks. I mean, that's a way to do it, possibly. Though, of course, also utterly horrifically backfire. I won't deny that. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure about that. Like, again, I feel like part of the issue could just be, you know, making somehow some other elements more relevant, and again make it harder just to stall into the big heavy tanks. Like, I feel like it was just easier to punish someone to stall into the big heavy tank. You know, the rest would probably flow better. Either way, that was the state of the balance here for October 2019. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, subscribe, like, share, comment. Press the bell button as well if you like. This is Imperial signing off, and see you all another time for another video. Cheers.